Knowledge itself is power. This was said by Sir Francis Bacon, who lived between 1561 and 1626. Hi, I'm Dr. Charles Byrne. I'm a psychiatrist who has a special interest in diets that are healthy for the heart, help prevent heart disease, and also how those same diets can help our endangered planet.
Hi, I'm Sinead Dart O'Flynn. I'm a medical scientist and a student of public health with a special interest in diets and also planetary health.
In this episode, we're going to be talking about the science behind the diets that we've been describing in the previous episodes, what medical research has shown us about how reduced meat diets and vegetarian diets, otherwise known as plant-based diets, can help keep your heart healthy and prevent heart disease. Also, how they can even reduce disease of the heart that's already present.
Yes, Charles, absolutely. But the problem is, although me and you love science, there's some people out there that find science can be awfully dull and droll and boring. So our challenge today is going to be to tell this information in a way that's lighthearted and won't put our listeners to sleep.
Okay, we'll try.
We try our best. First, perhaps we should have a brief recap about the diets that we're recommending. And we discussed these in the first 3 episodes. So if you're listening and you want more details about these diets, please listen to one of the first 3 episodes of this podcast, because we're giving here is just the diets in kind of an overview or a nutshell. So, Charles, who are these dietary options intended for?
Well, these dietary options are for everyone who wants to keep their heart healthy and prevent heart disease from starting. And research indicates that the sooner we start looking after our hearts, the better for our long-term outcome. And there was a recent research article that was published in the Journal of the American Heart Association. And this study looked at people who adopted a plant-based diet in young adulthood and those who didn't. And the subjects were between the ages of 18 and 30, and they were followed up for a long time, for over 30 years. And at the end of the time, it was found that those who had been on plant-based diets during that time had an amazing 52% less chance of having cardiovascular disease compared to those who are on the omnivorous usual diet.
52%, that's insane. Yeah. That's over half, like the risk or whatever. That's crazy, yeah.
So starting from your age, it's a good idea to start thinking about your heart and for the long-term benefits that a diet can produce.
Yeah.
So the diet that those on the plant-based group were on was actually very similar to the diets that we've been recommending in that journal article. So I think the essential point is never too early to start looking after your heart with a heart-healthy diet. And also, as we said before, these diets are also for people with relatively minor problems like raised cholesterol or slightly raised blood pressure or being overweight that they'd like to help through diet and exercise. So they're also for those who've been diagnosed with a heart or cardiovascular problem and who may be on treatment and wish to help their treatment by diet and exercise so that it won't get any worse and hopefully that it can even reduce the problem. So as we've said before, if you are on treatment for any of these conditions, please don't stop them. Don't stop the treatment because they are serious conditions. Also, if you suffer from any heart or medical disorders, please consult with your doctor before going on any of the dietary options and exercise options that we suggest to make sure that your doctor is happy with it. Normally, these dietary options will be complementary to any medical treatment that you're having. If you find you're benefiting from them, it may be possible after talking to your doctor to reduce your medications. For example, your cholesterol level or your blood pressure goes down, then talk to your doctor as a benefit of these diets, and he or she may decide you can reduce some of the medication.
Always important to talk to your doctor, folks. So what about helping the environment? Can you tell our listeners, is there anything that these diets can help for, like help the planet or reduce climate change, which are obviously big issues in our world today?
Yes, Sinead, that's something that's very close to our hearts because we're both in the organisation called Irish Doctors for the Environment.
Yeah.
And these diets can help with climate change because globally 20% of greenhouse gases come from animal agriculture. And that's more than the entire global transport sector. So all of the trucks, cars, trains, and planes in the world produce less greenhouse gases than are produced by the meat industry. The other amazing statistic that I mentioned before is that the production of 1 gram of beef causes the release of 250 times the amount of greenhouse gases that the production of 1 gram of protein from legumes, for example, tofu, causes. So that's an amazing difference there. So that this is something that everyone can do in their daily lives. By eating less meat or going vegetarian, we can make a contribution to reduce climate change. And I think that's quite empowering for individuals, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I was watching a program once, and it was I can't remember the exact name. It was on RTE, and the host was saying, or it was a competition basically, and each family had to reduce their carbon emissions, and that was the aim of the program. That was the aim of the competition. And I remember watching it, and one of the judges, he said that reducing your meat consumption is one of the most impactful ways of reducing your carbon footprint. So after I saw that program, I went vegan. I went vegan for 4 years, So it made, and it was so empowering to know that I was making a difference by just something so simple as changing my diet, you know?
Yeah, that's right. And it's something people don't realise. That there was another study that was done in the university where they asked students and staff about meat that they were buying, and they asked them what is the best, most helpful thing they can do to reduce climate change. And most of the people focused on the wrapping that the meat was in, reducing the plastic wrapping, and not realizing that actually the major thing they could do would be to eat less meat.
Yeah.
So people don't realize that these kind of facts.
But it does make a huge difference. So definitely a win-win situation. What's good for your heart and health is also good for the planet. So that's great. So in a nutshell, could you remind us what the basics of these diets are?
Certainly. The dietary options all involve eating plenty of whole grains like wholemeal or whole grain bread, brown rice, and whole grain pasta. Starchy vegetables like potatoes, sweet potatoes, turnips, swedes, and peas are all good, as long as you don't deep fry them or cover them in butter.
There's a few people in my family.
Which turns something that's very healthy into something that's very unhealthy.
100%.
So these potatoes and sweet potatoes, etc., are known as complex carbohydrates, as opposed to simple carbohydrates like sugar or white bread. They're broken down slowly in your gut, and they don't give you a sudden rush of sugar or a high sugar level called a sugar rush. And that's because they're broken down slowly so that after eating them, the blood glucose, which is the sugar in your blood, goes up very slowly, and it goes down very slowly also. So for this reason, you don't tend to put on weight with complex carbohydrates because they make you feel fuller, faster, and for longer.
Can I interject here? Can I ask you about something?
Yeah.
So I have porridge every morning for breakfast. Would that be okay in these diets?
No, that's perfect. That's a complex.
So I have porridge with oat milk.
Yeah, perfect. That's a complex carbohydrate, and your oat milk has low levels of saturated fat. So no, that's perfect.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in relation to whole grains, the husks of the grains, as well as containing healthy micronutrients and phytochemicals, these husks expand your stomach after eating them. And that's important because there are nerves going from your stomach to the brain, which tell your brain when you've had enough food and to stop eating. So with whole grain food, your stomach is distended much earlier, and these nerves send a message to your brain to stop eating, that you've had enough. So if you eat white bread instead of wholemeal bread, you'll need to eat a lot more of it before those nerves in your stomach tell your brain to stop eating. And by that time, you've taken in a lot more calories. The options that we're describing also contain plenty of vegetables and fruits. The more the better. Coloured vegetables contain healthy phytochemicals and antioxidants which help fight against the aging process, something I want. They're also very low in fats and oils, vegetables and fruits. there is the other very important component of these dietary options is that they are all low fat, aiming to keep our daily fat intake at 20% or less of our daily calorie intake. So just a reminder, fats and oils are the same thing, one being a liquid form of the other, and we're avoiding them as much as possible in this diet, and particularly bad fats called saturated fats, but all fats we're avoiding them. And as we said before, in the typical European or American diet, fats make up about 40 to 50% of daily calorie intake, and a lot of those are the unhealthy saturated fats. And by the way, did you know that 1 gram of fat contains on average twice the number of calories that 1 gram of carbohydrate contains?
I didn't actually know that. Yeah, it kind of makes sense though. You know what I mean? Because like we're kind of always told that fats, like you have to keep them in a kind of as low as possible, or like there's some healthy fats, of course, but like not to overdo it with fats is kind of the message, isn't it?
Yeah, and people have a misconception that if they want to lose weight or get healthier, they have to give up all carbohydrates. And sometimes they can forget about fats, which have even more calories. But the other thing is, as we've said, if they're complex carbohydrates, that's a healthy thing. So if you eat mashed potato, but you don't add butter or dairy or any other fats, then you're eating a very healthy thing which won't put on weight, and it fills you up. So it's great.
Yeah, great. So do you want to remind us what are the options that we are kind of promoting on this podcast, the options for diets?
Sure, yeah. So for those who find it hard to give up meat completely, there's a flexitarian option where you can eat meat once a day, but also have one or more completely vegetarian days per week, so that you're reducing your meat intake. There's also a lacto-vegetarian option where you can take dairy, but it's all low-fat dairy, for example, skim milk or low-fat yogurt, and once a day some low-fat cheese. Then there's a vegan option, which is aiming at keeping fat consumption at or below 20%, as with the other two options already mentioned. And finally, there's a vegan option aimed at keeping fat consumption at 10% or less of daily calories. This last option is the hardest one to follow, but it also brings the strongest effects. In a study published in the Lancet Journal, which we also mentioned before, when this option was combined with exercise, group support, and relaxation, actually 82% of patients who were on it were able to reduce or reverse their heart disease over the course of a year, which is amazing. But the one I follow is the lacto-vegetarian option. Which of the 4 dietary options appeals to you, Sinead?
I think I'm as I said, I was vegan before, but I did find that a little bit difficult for me just with my busy lifestyle. And as well, I do like to have the option of trying like a new meat dish if it comes up like in a restaurant or whatever, if I'm out with my friends. So I think the flexitarian diet suits me best, because I love vegan food.
Yeah,
I think vegan food is delicious, like some of the dals, and like if you cook tofu properly, it can be really, really nice.
Yeah. And we're going to be doing a tofu dish at the end of the podcast, where that's our recipe of the week. So.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm excited. I'm always excited for the recipe of the week. Anyway, so going back to the diets here, so are there any supplements that are recommended with these dietary options?
Yes, Sinead. As we mentioned in the previous podcast, there are 3 supplements that we recommend with these options, with all of them. And actually, they can be particularly important with the vegan options to make sure that you're getting all of the essential nutrients. So the first supplements I recommend are marine omega-3 supplements. Traditionally, these were taken in the form of fish oil capsules, but now vegan options are available, which are derived from algae, called algae-derived omega-3. And these can be bought in health food shops and in pharmacies. The kind I use is called Optiou, Optiyoou. I think it's produced in Ireland. And I take 4 capsules every morning, which gives me a combined dose of 1,000 micrograms of the 2 omega-3s, DHA and EPA. And these are good for your brain as well as your heart. Although sometimes when I go upstairs and I've forgotten what I went up for, I wonder if it's helping the brain part at all.
Yeah, I think that happens to all of us.
There is another type of omega-3 which is plant-derived called ALA omega-3.
Okay.
And this is different. You need all of these kinds, DHA, EPA, and ALA, in my view, for optimum health. This is good for your heart and your joints. And I particularly notice it because if I don't take it for a few days, I find my knees beginning to get more sore.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, so it definitely helps with your joints.
Yeah.
And there are two good ways of taking this ALA omega-3.
Okay.
The first, which I use, is by taking flax oil. And I take 5 mils of flax oil daily together with food. You need to combine it with food. So it can be poured onto cereal or any food. It needs to be kept refrigerated because it degrades if left long at room temperature. So I also only buy it in shops where it's kept in the fridge. And I take a brand of that called FMD, which is made in Canada, but there's different brands of flax oil.
So is flax oil an omega-3?
It's a plant-based omega-3,
Okay, yeah.
as opposed to the marine-derived. By the way, an interesting fact about the marine-derived, I was saying originally they were taken in the form of fish oil capsules, but fish actually get their omega-3 by eating the algae.
Okay.
So they've cut out the middleman.
Oh, they just get it from
And the algae produces this omega-3, which is the same as the omega-3 you got from fish.
Okay.
And another good reason for using it is, I didn't know this before, but I think about a third of the fish caught are to produce the fish oil capsules are killed just for the omega-3. They're not used as food. I kind of presume.
It's very wasteful, isn't it?
So that's not good for fish stocks. So that's another reason to think about the algae-derived omega-3.
Because just on the environmental front, like overfishing is we might get into that someday actually. Overfishing is a huge problem for marine health, marine life and health. So maybe we'll get into that on another podcast.
We'll be talking about the environment more in later podcasts. We're going to have a couple of podcasts just purely dedicated to talking about the environment, climate change.
Yeah, I look forward to them. So back to omega-3, you were telling me that about the FMD brand and that,
And there's another good way of taking ALA omega-3, and that's chia seeds. So you can add around 2 or 3 teaspoons, say, for measuring, I use a measuring spoon which has 5 mils on one side and 2.5 mils on the other side.
The Calpol one.
The Calpol one, yeah. So about 2 or 3 teaspoons of chia seed added to food, for example, cereal or porridge. And it's got a little bit of a strong taste, but if you put it with porridge or cereal, it's quite nice.
Yeah.
And so a number of studies have shown that both of these types of omega-3, the algae-derived and the ALA omega-3, both are beneficial for the heart.
Do you know what I do with chia seeds? Have you ever heard of overnight oats?
No.
So basically you put oats and your milk and maybe a bit of yogurt and chia seeds in a pot and you leave it in the fridge overnight.
Yes.
And then they're ready in the morning and they're delicious. Like it's like eating a dessert for breakfast, but it's healthy for you.
And you don't have to cook it? Or
just, I don't know, does the milk soak into the oats and then they're ready to go in the morning?
Very good.
Yeah, it's delicious, And chia seeds are really nice with that.
Yeah. The other thing about chia seeds is, as far as I know, they're not destroyed by cooking. So you can actually put them in your porridge and cook them with them. Although normally people sprinkle on top after it's cooked.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing about omega-3 is that it's strongly anti-inflammatory in the body. So just as when we get an injury on the outside of our body, for instance, on our skin, we see redness and sometimes slight swelling, and this is called inflammation. But what many people don't realize is that you can also get inflammation on the inside of your body. And this is particularly important when it involves the blood vessels of the heart. So inflammation in the body can increase the process of blood clot formation on the atherosclerosis inside your arteries. So anything that decreases inflammation in your body is good for your heart and your health. So omega-3, unlike many fats and oils which are inflammatory, promoting inflammation, omega-3 is anti-inflammatory.
Okay.
And other oils, like which might contain omega-6 fatty acids, which are found in many cooking oils, they're actually inflammatory. But
Okay.
I think this is the reason why omega-3 is beneficial for the heart, because it's anti-inflammatory.
Okay.
And by the way, sugar is also inflammatory, and it's another reason why we should avoid sugar.
Oh, it's hard to hear that one. So, in a historical context, has it always been the way that humans have been eating like these inflammatory oils?
No, Sinead, our ancient ancestors, the early humans in the remote past called the Paleolithic period, were hunter-gatherers, and they took large amounts of omega-3 fatty acids in their food. That's because the plants and foods that they ate at that time and they grazed on, and also the wild animals' meat that they ate, naturally contained high levels of omega-3.
Wow.
So it's estimated at those times, for the early humans, the proportion of omega-6 to omega-3 in food was about equal, about 1-to-1
Okay.
proportions. But then with the introduction of farming, which humans started to do around 10,000 years ago, in the Neolithic period, they started growing crops and keeping animals for food. The proportion of omega-3 compared to omega-6 has gone steadily down, and it's now estimated to be approximately 20-to-1 omega-6 to omega-3.
That's such a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So taking these supplements helps restore the ancient healthy balance that our modern diets have distorted. And the other supplement that we recommend is a daily multivitamin without vitamin A. And the reason is because vitamin A over time can build up in the body. So try and find one without vitamin A.
Okay, no vitamin A. Thanks, Charles. That's very interesting. So there were advantages to the hunter-gatherer lifestyle that I had no clue about that, the omega-3 to the omega-6. So that's very interesting to learn about. So we're going to take a little break now. So why not pause the podcast and have a cup of tea or coffee? If you're feeling peckish, why not try some nice wholemeal bread with some vegan spread like Flora Lighter and some high fruit, no sugar spread like Biona's organic forest berries. Do you ever have that?
Yeah, that's my
Good,
regular.
isn't it?
It's my regular one.
Yeah, it's tasty. But please make sure that the spread has a low sugar content. Sugar is inflammatory, as we just learned. So about 27 or 28 grams of sugar per 100 grams of spread. And you can do this, as always, by checking the label. So when we come back, we are going to talk about the science behind why veggie and reduced meat diets are good for your heart and general health.
If you find what we've been talking about in this podcast interesting, you can find a lot more information on these topics in my book, Save Your Heart, Lose Weight and Help Save the Planet, which is available on Amazon.
So, Charles, we mentioned in previous episodes that you had a heart episode and you were telling me that it started you on a bit of a search. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, after my heart episode, besides giving me advice about lifestyle changes, the doctor started me on a statin medication. And unfortunately, I had a reaction to this, getting severe cramps in my leg. And I decided to ask my doctor if, instead of taking this, I could try getting my cholesterol level down and losing weight by changing my diet and taking exercise. She somewhat reluctantly agreed to this, and that started me on a search through the medical literature to try and find a diet that would most effectively do this.
So where did you start looking for this information?
Well, I had available to me, as most doctors do, access to the medical databases containing all the research, including PubMed and the Cochrane Library. And also, I'd been vegetarian previously in my life for 14 years. So this was the first area of interest when I started searching. I did consider the Mediterranean diet, but to me it seemed a bit wishy-washy. eating more seafood and putting olive oil on salad for cooking. I don't know, it seemed to me imprecise, and I didn't feel that I really would have faith in it. And I have to say, I still don't have much faith in it.
Really?
Although it's probably a controversial thing to
Yeah,
say.
I was just about to say it's a bit controversial.
And, when I looked into research on its efficacy, it's not been that convincing, in my opinion, only showing relatively modest benefits,
Okay.
although others would argue differently, but that's what I saw. So I started searching medical databases for research done on vegetarian diets and potential beneficial effects for heart disease. And to my surprise, there was quite a lot of research in this area. So without going into all of the details, I straight away found two very large studies which compared vegetarians and non-vegetarians, otherwise known as omnivores, eating meat and vegetable, etc., and which followed the subjects over a number of years to see if there was any difference in the occurrence of heart and cardiovascular disease in the two groups.
Okay.
So the first of these studies was published in 1998, and it involved a very large number of participants. They did this by grouping studies together. So there were over 76,000 men and women between the ages of 16 and 89 were recruited. And of those, over 27,000 were vegetarian.
As a budding epidemiologist, those numbers, that's such a huge study.
That's
that I'm just
serious.
thinking about the p-values. They're going to be tiny.
That's
so,
serious
yeah.
numbers, yeah.
That's serious numbers for a study, yeah.
So they were followed up for a number of years, and they were carefully monitored for the occurrence of death through ischemic heart disease during that time. So ischemic heart disease is, we've spoken about before, the narrowing or blockage of the heart's arteries leading to a lack of blood supplying the heart muscle. And in this case, they monitored when it actually led to the death of the individual. The groups of people amongst the vegetarians in the study included various groups. They included 198 congregations of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in California, a large proportion of whom are vegetarian. And that's because the church advocates vegetarianism as a part of a healthy lifestyle.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another part of this group were recruited in the UK from vegetarians who attended health food shops, vegetarian societies and vegetarian magazines. And also there was a large group from Germany who were recruited through vegetarian magazines. The non-vegetarians in the study were often friends and relatives of the vegetarians. So to go to the bottom line, it was found that the vegetarians in the study, after a number of years, had a 24% lower chance of dying from heart disease over the years of the study.
Wow, 24%. That's especially with such a big study. That's some fantastic evidence you found there.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you found on your search?
Well, yet the next large study that I came across was published in 2017, and it was conducted by Italian researchers, and they found very similar results. This was even a larger study than the previous one, with over 56,000 vegetarians, of whom 8,000 were vegan.
Okay.
And they were compared to over 184,000 omnivores.
Huge study again, yeah.
So they were followed for a number of years, as in the previous study, and they found that vegetarians had a 25% less chance of dying from ischemic heart disease during the study than omnivores or non-vegetarians.
You don't remember how long they were followed up for?
This was a grouping together of a number of studies. So within that, they were studied over different periods of time. I remember some of them were studied for 10 years, but the length of time was variable.
Yeah.
So
did they find anything else?
Yeah, they also found that the vegetarians in the study had lower BMI measurements or weight. This BMI is a sort of weight measurement. They had lower cholesterol levels, the vegetarians. They had lower blood sugar levels than the non-vegetarians. And blood sugar is important because one of the risk factors for developing heart disease is diabetes, which obviously has raised blood sugar. But many people have what's called slightly elevated blood sugars or pre-diabetes. And so there is a connection. If you have, as the vegetarians did, tended to have lower blood sugar levels, you're less likely to go on to have diabetes and you're less likely to have this as a risk factor for heart disease. So they also had, interestingly, they also found that vegetarians had a lower chance of developing cancer during the study period.
Wow.
Yeah, 8% lower for vegetarians and 15% lower for vegans. So that was something new I didn't know about.
Amazing.
And I found another large study from 2012, which included, again, different groups. This one included a group of Japanese Zen Buddhist vegetarian priests in the vegetarian group. And this study found that vegetarians had a 29% lower death rate from ischemic heart disease than meat eaters during the study period.
Could you just remind us what is ischemic heart disease? Is that the same thing that we're talking about?
Yeah, it's where the process of gradual blockage of the coronary arteries by atherosclerosis. So
Okay.
the lumen gets gradually occluded. But then what can happen to that as well on top of that is if the inside of the artery gets damaged at all, clot can form on it. And that clot can suddenly block off the artery, and that's called a heart attack, and that can be fatal.
Yeah. Okay.
So that can damage the heart muscle if it's not fatal.
Okay.
So these studies looked at people who actually died in this way.
Okay.
And they also found in this study, as in the last one, that vegetarians compared to meat eaters had 18% lower chance of developing cancer during the study period. That got me thinking, because interestingly, the protection given by statins against death from heart disease has been shown by research to be between 17% and 28%. So therefore, just by going vegetarian, you can provide a similar level of protection for your heart and a similar level. And if you add low fat and low saturated fat to that, you're getting even more protection. But again, I must emphasize, please don't stop any medications without discussing it with your doctor first and getting their advice, because everyone has their own special circumstances.
Yeah. So did you find anything in relation to how much meat you eat or the type of meat you eat? Was there any information on that?
Yeah, there was a correlation there. In another study published in 2009, it looked at the levels of meat intake in a large group of people who were followed up for 10 years, and they looked at the number of deaths that occurred during that time. So this was even bigger. We're getting into bigger numbers every time. This time, 500,000 people participated in the study, and it was found that the higher the consumption of red meat and processed meat, the higher the risk of developing cardiovascular disease.
Okay.
And those who ate the highest levels of red and processed meat had high chances of dying from cancer during the 10-year period.
So what we're hearing is that it's not just cardiovascular disease that it affects. There's actually cancer as well that it's been proven to affect.
Yes, yeah. And another study, which was published in 2012, looked at the daily amounts of meat eaten and the occurrence of heart disease. And this study found that for every extra serving of red meat during the day, there was an 18% higher chance of death from cardiovascular disease over the course of the study. So that's quite significant.
Well, yeah.
And in the study, one serving amounted to 84 grams of meat. And for processed meat, this figure increased to 21% increased chance of death per extra serving.
That's kind of terrifying when you look at it like that.
Yeah. So the study concluded that by substituting just one serving of red meat per day with other foods such as fish, poultry, legumes, low-fat dairy or whole grains, as we've been talking about, you could lower your risk of death between 7 to 19%.
Incredible. So what did you make of these findings?
Well, first of all, I apologise for all these facts and figures, and I hope I'm not being too boring, but it pointed me very clearly to the fact that being vegetarian reduced your chance of dying from heart disease by around 25%. And also for those who do eat meat, reducing the daily amount of it, particularly red meat and processed meat, significantly decreases your chances of developing heart disease and also cancer. So what is processed meat? Processed meat is preserved by smoking, curing, salting, or the addition of chemical preservatives. And examples are sliced bacon, salami, sausages, hot dogs, and luncheon meats. So even the sliced ham you buy in packets in the supermarket, which many people use in sandwiches, it's not actually good for you. It's processed meat, and nitrites are often added to it, and other things. So it's thought that the addition of nitrites and salt to processed meat increases their tendency to cause atherosclerosis.
So if I was in the supermarket and I did want to eat meat, but I didn't know how to check for processed, if the meat was processed or not, do you have any advice on how to read the label to make sure that you're getting the best?
Yeah. Well, usually, one thing I should mention, recently I've noticed they've come out with some sliced ham and it has on the label nitrite and additive free. So that might be one way to look. But generally, the meat that you buy that you have to cook yourself, it's like if it's a steak or chicken, you'll see it in a pack and nothing is being added. It's just regular meat. So that wouldn't be processed meat.
Okay.
But the meat in packets, one thing you can see, just again, if it's in a packet, look on the ingredients list. And if there's other things there other than meat, nitrates or whatever, then it's processed.
Okay. But obviously, like, the best thing to do, as has been demonstrated by these studies, is to reduce your meat consumption. That's kind of our bottom line, isn't it?
Absolutely. And if you do eat meat as well, the safest meat to eat is something like chicken without the skin, or other poultry without skin, or fish. They're not have nearly the same tendency to cause heart disease as red meat or processed meat.
Okay. So what was your overall conclusion? What's the bottom line after reading all these research studies, Charles?
Well, I realised that being vegetarian was definitely advantageous and helped to prevent heart disease. But I wondered, were there any other diets that could reduce your chances even more, or could even reduce or reverse heart disease that was already present? So in the next part of my search, I was to find exactly that, diets that could actually reverse heart disease.
Wow.
When I read about the plant-based diets of Dr. Dean Ornish and Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, who are based in the United States and were pioneers of plant-based treatment for heart disease. And we'll discuss their work, I think, in the next episode.
Oh, wow. You're leaving us on a cliffhanger. So for now, we're going to take another break. And when we return, we will have my favourite part of the podcast, which is the recipe of the week. And it's a great heart-healthy vegetarian dish for you. It's spicy tofu and vegetable stir fry with rice.
Yes, so today we have our recipe of the day, which will make your coronary artery smile. And it's spicy tofu and vegetable stir fry with rice. So this dish serves 2 people. This is a classic Chinese style meal, but made spicier with the addition of some curry spices. Although the latter can be omitted if you prefer. Although I've used the vegetable bok choy in this recipe, virtually any vegetables can be used in this dish, whatever you have in the kitchen, which makes it a very convenient dish. Another time-saving way of doing this dish is to use frozen stir-fry vegetables, which are usually available in your supermarket. It's a very healthy dish in which the vegetables, because they are fairly lightly cooked, retain more of their micronutrients and vitamins. And tofu is also considered a health-giving food and particularly heart-healthy. So these are the ingredients. 100 grams of tofu. This can be smoked or regular. I like the smoked version. 1 cupful of brown rice. 1 large onion. 2 heaped teaspoons of fresh sliced ginger. 5 pieces or heads of bok choy. 125 grams of mushrooms. 3 cloves of garlic. 3 medium-sized tomatoes, 1 large courgette or zucchini, 5 mils of rapeseed or canola oil, 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, 2 heaped teaspoons of mild curry powder. This is the optional one and can be omitted. And it's a low-fat dish because the total fat in all of this meal is just 13.4 grams, which means that if it's 2 people, The total fat consumed per person is just 6.7 grams. And here is the method. First, put the brown rice on to cook. In a saucepan, place a cup of brown rice with a large amount of water. Add a little salt, bring to the boil, and simmer it for about 22 to 25 minutes. The length of time should be on the packet of the brown rice. But you can taste the rice to make sure it's no longer hard. And then drain off the water. Brown rice takes longer to cook than white rice, so you have to make an allowance for that little extra time. So while the rice is cooking, take a large onion, peel and slice moderately. Pieces can be left fairly large in Chinese cooking. Then take a heavy base non-stick frying pan or a wok if you have one, and pour in 5 mils of rapeseed or canola oil. Spread around the pan and allow it to heat. Then add the onions and begin to fry slowly, stirring intermittently. Then clean the courgette, cut into fairly thin slices and add to the pan and continue cooking. Then cut the eel tofu into rectangles about 4 centimeters long and place in contact with the surface of the pan so that they can brown slightly. Then wash and slice your mushrooms and tomatoes and add them to the pan, continuing to stir it intermittently. Then peel the ginger and slice it finely and add this to the pan. Ginger is a very important component of Chinese cooking. Then wash your bok choy carefully because little bits of earth can get caught in the leaves, I find. So Then cut it approximately into 2.5 centimeter pieces and add this to the pan. And crush and peel your cloves of garlic, chop them finely and add them to the mixture. The way I'm describing involves washing and chopping the vegetables as you cook, but some people may prefer to prepare all the vegetables fully first and then start cooking. My method is a bit more frantic.
You're living life on the edge, Charles.
And then add 2 heaped teaspoons of curry powder if desired and keep stirring. After the vegetables have started to soften, add some water to the pan and continue the softening process. At the beginning, most of the time, this dish is cooked at a high heat Chinese style, but after the water have added, the heat can be reduced and you can simmer it. Then add the soy sauce, and you might need perhaps more soy sauce according to taste. In such stir fries, vegetables should retain a small amount of crispiness. So then serve stir-fry vegetables alongside the cooked rice. Also, in this recipe, bean sprouts and bamboo shoots can be used. It can also be used with this dish, which is very versatile.
I think my mouth is actually watering listening to that. That sounds absolutely delicious. I'll definitely have to try that one as well. I say that every week. Yeah, they just sound so good.
Yeah.
So we'll be putting up this recipe and all our weekly recipes on our social media, Your Heart, Our Planet, on Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. And we would absolutely love to hear from you. So if you have any comments on what you heard in this podcast, if you tried the dish of the week and you really enjoy it, please let us know.
Yes, yeah. And we'll be including some of your comments and queries in our future podcasts. And finally, if you find what you've been hearing in this podcast beneficial, you can find much more information on these topics in my book, Save Your Heart, Lose Weight and Help Save the Planet, which is available on Amazon as a paperback and on Kindle. And our podcast will be coming out every week. So we look forward to you joining us again. And until then, bye-bye.
And a bye-bye from me. We'll see you later, guys.